Johnson says the idea of a vaccine passport could be inevitable to enable foreign travel, but confirmed there's no plans to introduce them for activities such as going to the pub.
But should the government be considering vaccine certificates as a way of getting life back to normal? Joining us to talk about this, we have Talk Radio presenter Darryl Morris, who believes the vaccine passports will help open up the economy, and political commentator Dominic Samuels, who says certification is an attack on our freedom. Good morning to both of you this morning. Thanks for joining us. Dominic, I kind of guess that lots of people are sitting at home looking at the fact that the rates are coming down, the vaccinations are going up, and it feels like we're starting to claw our way out of this. And we'll be wondering why the idea of having a vaccine certificate or a vaccine passport to say, yes, we have been vaccinated, so you can go and do what you need to do, would be a bad idea. Why are you so against it?
Well, because, I mean, it's a ridiculous idea for a few reasons, and I can't even believe we're even having this conversation. But the first being that this is de facto mandating vaccines by deciding who can and can't use things in society, such as bars and restaurants, when the government has said that it would never go down the road of mandating vaccines. This is mandating vaccines just through the back door. And what is even the point of the vaccination programme when those that are most vulnerable in society, that account for about 80 to 90% of the hospitalisations and deaths, will be protected by the vaccine? Why then do we need to go down the road of excluding other people from society and stop them from using other facilities? This is essentially creating a class of two people within society, the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated, and this will greatly impact young people. Imagine being a young person going through lockdown when you're not really even affected by coronavirus, having your job prospects slashed, and then on top of that, not even being able to participate in getting the economy moving again. Let's be honest, the hospitality sector in particular greatly relies on the custom of young people, particularly in university cities where restaurants and bars rely on students and young people. I don't think this is the best route to getting the economy moving again. The way we get the economy moving again is making sure that those who are vulnerable are vaccinated and protected against coronavirus, and ensuring that businesses can open in a COVID-safe environment. I mean,
but
requiring
Dominic, nobody would be preventing these people going to the pub. It would be their choice. They would have made the decision not to be vaccinated, which is what we're told is the best way to protect people, because I know you say young people aren't so badly affected. They can still carry it. So they would make the choice that they would rather not be vaccinated and potentially help to protect those around them. That would mean they couldn't go to the pub. They weren't safe to go into the pub. That would be their choice. No one's stopping them going. They would be choosing to make a decision out of their own opinions, which then, yes, might mean that they couldn't do those things. Why is that unfair compared with risking someone's life?
I mean, well, that's based upon what your idea of freedom and not being forced to do something is, but you are inadvertently being forced to take a vaccine. And there are many people that don't want to take vaccines.
No, you're only being asked to take it if you want to do that activity. I mean, I understand the point you're driving at. There are people that are fearful of the vaccine. There are people that don't want to take the vaccine. But you know, we're in a situation where we're all having to do things we'd rather not do. We don't want to stay at home. We don't want to be in a lockdown. A lot of people don't want to wear masks. A lot of people don't want to do all sorts of things. We'd love to go and see our loved ones. We can't. We'd like to visit people in hospital. There are many, many sacrifices that people are making. And the argument would be that if you choose not to have the vaccine, that is your choice, but it has consequences.
Well, no, there shouldn't be any consequences because that is someone's individual decision that they have made.
Freedom comes with responsibility, doesn't it, Dominic?
Can I just finish this point? Let's be honest, there isn't this scourge of people that are rejecting vaccines, which is what people are trying to make out to warrant this kind of vaccination passport fanaticism. Most people who are offered the vaccine actually take it. So those that don't take the vaccine when offered it won't even make that much of a difference. And we don't even know whether or not the vaccine in itself stops transmission. So this idea that this is magically going to stop people from passing it on doesn't even make any sense.
That's a fair point. I mean, there is something in this, isn't there, that this is a very new vaccine being administered and being offered to people in an emergency situation. There is a line that's being crossed for many people, though, isn't there, Darryl, which is that actually once that idea of having to give your personal medical data and have it on record somewhere is crossed, we will never go back?
Well, perhaps, but we do that already, don't we? I mean, our medical data is on record. I also think there's three important points to make here. The first one is that what we understand of the vaccine so far, it likely does reduce the risk of transmission by about 60 or 70% potentially, according to the AstraZeneca's research. I think 0.04% of people who'd had the vaccine in Israel, or a certain strain of the vaccine in Israel, reduced their transmission rate. So that's that's some really, really good news. Also, I think, look, Dominic, you make the freedom argument, and I think it's a really important argument to make about freedom. I'm really glad that you're in the debate having it, but I think it, when we talk about sort of the rollout of an authoritarian state, or we fail to see the difference between authoritarian measures and measures that are being implemented to protect public health, we muddy the argument, and it does it a disservice, I think. And the other really important point to make is that this is not ideal. None of this is ideal. When you are dealing with a pandemic, you are dealing with a least worst case scenario situation. What is the least worst thing that we can do? And when we're talking about a vaccine passport, we should be talking about something that will allow us to unlock. It should be seen as an alternative to something like a lockdown, where we are asking millions of people to step out of society. We can enable millions more people to step back into society.
Okay.
And I think it also has to... Can I make one more point, actually? Because I think it also has to go hand in hand with the conversation about testing. Because I think we should be talking about a status passport here, where if you are vaccinated, you are able to prove that you are vaccinated on your way into a gig. And if you are not able to take the vaccine, you can take a flow test, a quick turnaround test, and you can prove that you are not carrying the disease when you go into a public space. I think that's the most important thing that we aim for.
We have Dr. Amir Khan with us as well. And Amir, it would be interesting to get your thoughts on this, because clearly Dominic is very passionate about this. It's an infringement of civil liberties, and it opens the door to all sorts of issues, and actually shouldn't be a consideration. Whereas we can see that Daryl is coming at it from a slightly different perspective, and understanding that, there are all sorts of choices that we have to make. But if we want to be able to go and enjoy gigs, and you have had the vaccine, you should be allowed to. But maybe there can be lateral flow tests for people that haven't been able to have the vaccine or have chosen not to have the vaccine. On the front line from where you are, distributing the vaccine and seeing people in and out of homes and in hospitals, what's your take on it?
I think it's really important that people do take the vaccine when it's offered to them. I see the point in terms of, if you want to do something, you may well have to have the vaccine. I don't get this argument that we're giving away our medical data, our medical records. It is one point of your medical records. We're not asking for your deepest, darkest secrets that you may have discussed with your GP. It is just about whether you've been vaccinated or not. And we do that over and over again. Dominic, if you've ever travelled to certain parts of the world, you may have to disclose that you've had the yellow fever vaccine. If you've gone to Saudi Arabia, like I have, I've had to have the meningitis ACWY vaccine and declare that. It's not a new concept, and we've got to get away from this. We're declaring our medical data. It's one point of that. And I have seen the devastation this virus has caused. I had conversations with relatives on a regular basis who have lost people, and if vaccinating gets us out of those conversations, gets people
there, though. You see, that's the point that Dominic's making, is that there's still so much that's unknown. There are people who don't like the principle of vaccinations. They don't trust it. Is it morally right they should be forced into having it? Is it mandating by the back door?
No, nobody should be forced into having it. It's always their choice. But as we said, those choices do have consequences because your choice impacts other people. And there is increasing evidence that the vaccines do reduce transmission. So if you're getting on a flight full of people who have been vaccinated, and you haven't been vaccinated, there is a chance that you could be spreading it around to people who haven't yet had the vaccine.
Dominic, have you ever had to travel to a country where you've been required to take certain jabs to go there?
I mean, that's not my point, though. That's completely irrelevant to what I was saying.
But the perspective, Dominic, I guess the perspective is, if you do choose to travel to those countries, if you want to make that choice, there are certain requirements that you're expected to do to go there. And that's something that we've all lived with for many, many years, and we've got very used to this. This is a very new experience for all of us. It's a very new vaccine, and we can understand people's reticence to take that vaccine. But the principle is still the same, isn't it?
Well, no, because there's a difference between having to go to another country and having requirements for going there. You can't control what other countries do.
But all of
There's
a sudden, but if we're in a, but Dominic, if we're in a country, but we're in a country now that has a very virulent virus that is killing people. We're in a country that is devastating families, and it's caused all sorts of problems for the economy, for families, for life as it is. So suddenly we have one of those viruses in this country, which we haven't had previously.
I mean, yeah, but that's completely different. I mean, one of the issues with international travel is the fact that it's allowed new variants to come into the country. We should obviously have border control, and you can't control what other countries do. And look, I understand that the virus has really impacted people's families, but the fact of the matter is that most people who catch coronavirus recover from it and do not die. We can't base our whole society on being scared of a virus that most people actually do recover from. I understand that it's been devastating on a lot of people, but that's just the fact of the matter.
It's an interesting perspective you put, Dominic. It's an interesting perspective. I don't know what you feel the alternative is. I don't know what your solutions are, but it's important to have the debate.
Alternative, actually. The alternative would be
We've got
opening
40
up
seconds for it, Dominic.
Okay.
No, go on.
It would be opening up businesses in a COVID-secure way. I mean, what's wrong with taking people's temperature like we have before?
Because a lot of people that get COVID and die from it never have a temperature. So that's the problem. The symptoms, that didn't work before, didn't work now.
But let's come back to the point that you were making. You were talking about trying to find a way of getting back to normal but not having to take the vaccinations. Just outline your argument again.
Well, the point is that the fact that we have the vaccines dramatically changes the conversation. And the issue is that a lot of people are still speaking as though we don't have a vaccine, which does protect people. And in terms of opening up society and getting the economy moving again, the way to do that is to allow businesses to open in a common sense way, you know, using social distancing, measuring people's temperature when they go inside the building. And actually, the evidence suggests that the hospitality sector wasn't a super spreader of the virus as some people were making out. So the point about vaccine passports, especially when the vulnerable will be vaccinated, doesn't actually make any sense.
Well, there are reports in the paper at the end today actually saying that in fact the pubs particularly were more of an issue than people thought in spreading it. But you're right, there's still detail. When you say though, the fact that the vaccine's there and so many people taking it does protect vulnerable people, but people shouldn't be forced to have it. It's almost like you're arguing that because some people have made a decision, other people shouldn't be pressurised into it. And I understand that, but it's almost like you're giving the responsibility to others. If you're an individual that, for their own reasons, maybe their own beliefs, doesn't want to have a vaccine, then you have to take responsibility that you're relying on others in society to take a risk that you don't want to take. Do you understand what I mean? And I think people feel uncomfortable with that. This only works, actually, anything only works if we all stick together. So why wouldn't people be proud to have done something and have it as a passport?
I just think it's bizarre that we base this upon what our personal beliefs are. Of course, you know, when you take a vaccine and go towards the effort of ensuring society opens again, that is a really good thing. But the fact of the matter is there are some people, for many reasons, medical ones, you know, those that were expecting to conceive, pregnant women, etc. There are many reasons that people won't be able to take the vaccine.
That's not what we're talking about here, though, is there? Because if somebody had an exception, and we're bringing Amir Khan in a minute. I just want to put this point, because that is different, isn't it, Dr. Amir Khan? We're not suggesting that people who, for medical reasons, can't have the vaccine would be penalised from going from the pub or if they were pregnant. This is about trying to have some standardisation that would allow businesses, and I'm not even sure, you're making it seem, Dominic, as though I'm pro this. I'm just engaged in the debate of it.
Well, you keep interrupting me, so I'm guessing you are.
No, I've also given you a lot of time to make your points and come back to you, and actually created extra time in the show so that we can debate it more. So I completely think it's interesting what you're saying, because it's an important debate to have. But Dr. Amir Khan, you know, you've been shaking your head through this because you see the medical side of it. Do you understand the points that Dominic are making, though, that actually there are so many things that we were told to do and not to do that have changed? Introducing something like this, which cuts off a section of society for just doing what's normal, feels like a dangerous slide into authority and a lack of freedom for many people.
I can understand anyone's frustration when it comes to being asked to get the vaccine. I understand people have questions around the vaccine, and I understand that people are fed up because of lockdown and the whole pandemic. But as you say, Kate, the way that this is going to move forward is if we all collectively make the right decisions. And it's not just about vaccines, it's about social distancing. It will be about lateral flow tests when it comes to going to places as well. I just want to pick up some points that Dominic said, which are really, really important, not necessarily related to this argument, but because you've said it. People who are wanting to conceive, fertility, the vaccines do not affect fertility at all in women or men. And that is on the Royal College of Obs and Gynae website, if you want to have a look at that. You mentioned pregnant women can't have it. Yes, there's no data to suggest that these vaccines are harmful to pregnant women. And pregnant women who are on the front line or have underlying health conditions can talk to their doctors about having it. So it's really important we get that information right, because part of the reason people aren't going for the vaccine is because there's misinformation out there. I know that's separate to this argument, but it's important to clarify those points. With regards to making people have the vaccine, nobody should be made to have the vaccine. It should be an individual's choice. But, if we do want to come out of this lockdown, and I'm sure Dominic wants that as much as I do, one of the best ways to do that is for as many people as possible to take the vaccine. And there will be a small cohort of people who can't have the vaccine because of maybe severe allergies to the contents. And they rely on people like you and I, Dominic, who aren't allergic to the vaccines, who are otherwise healthy, I'm hoping in your case as well as mine, who can take the vaccine and protect them.